Reuben Sigfred Johnson was born on November 13, 1903, on a farm near McPherson, Kansas. He was the youngest brother of Miss Edwards' grandpa.
He started first grade at North Union School. It was a one-room schoolhouse. He found out at school that there was a lot to learn about this world. He never stopped learning from then on.
When Reuben was 14 years old, his parents moved to Alamo, Texas to start a vegetable and fruit farm. Reuben stayed in Kansas with his brothers.
Reuben finished school when he was 15. After that, he helped his brother and sister-in-law with the farm work.
On Saturday, Reuben liked to go to the movie theater. In McPherson, he watched the newsreels and dreamed of seeing the country.
Reuben loved to read. He had a library card for the library in McPherson. When he was in town, he often visited the library and checked out books so he could learn more about the world. One of the newsreels told about the round of the world flight of 1924. By that time, Reuben was nearly 21 years old. The Wright brothers had made their first flight when Reuben was 1 month old. Now flight schools were opening around the country, and Reuben wanted to be part of the adventure.
Reuben boarded a train and headed for Chicago, Illinois, where he could attend flight school. While he was there, he learned how to repair airplanes as well as fly them. He designed and built a carrier that could fit on the back of a truck. They used it to carry an airplane to the air show in Ohio.
One day, he was flying with his instructor when something went wrong with the plane they were using. It finally crashed into a tree. Reuben and his instructor walked away without any injuries. In 1925, Reuben returned from Kansas to help with the harvest, but he was just getting started with his travels. He borrowed his brother Amos's Indian motorcycle and made the 1,000-mile trip to his parents' farm in Texas. While he was there, he helped his dad and other farmers with their tractors and other farm machines. He returned to Kansas in 1927, but he didn't stay long. His cousin Joe brought a Model T Ford coupe, and by the time harvest came again, they were off to follow the harvest north all the way to Canada. When it was time to head south, Reuben decided to go west instead. They dropped him off at a train depot, and he rode as far as Yellowstone National Park, where he found a job for a few months. When the heavy snows began, he packed up and took a train south toward Phoenix, Arizona.
News of the air races in Los Angeles reached Reuben, and he continued to California to watch the planes take off for Hawaii.
When the race were over, Reuben rode back to Chicago with someone in a car. That trip was nearly 2,000 miles.
Most people would want to rest after that much traveling, but Reuben wanted to see more. He decided to go east for his next trip. He boarded a bus headed for Detroit, Michigan.
When he got to Detroit, he took a steamer to Buffalo, New York. He needed traveling money and heard of a job in Portland, Maine, working on construction of the Wyman Dam. When the dam was finished, Reuben had headed south to New York City. He spent the winter there working in a school supply factory.
The next spring, Reuben returned to Chicago. He still had the desire to travel more.
He bought a canoe and used his skills to attach a sail and rudder to it. A friend helped him get it to the Illinois River on the top of his car. Reuben put the canoe in the river and started paddling.
Reuben paddled and sailed the Illinois River until it reached the wide Mississippi River. He turned his canoe and guided it down the river.
A few times he was warned that going down the river in a canoe was dangerous. He even spent a night in jail as the sheriff tried to talk him out of traveling in such a small boat. They were afraid he would be hit by a barge or a riverboat.
Reuben listened, but he still put his canoe back in the river. The next morning, he went on. He wasn't afraid.
He traveled over 1,000 miles in his canoe before he reached the Hanover River.
When he got to New Orleans and the Mississippi River was about to empty into the Gulf water, Reuben found a place for his canoe and went to explore the city.
He found a place to stay and a job in a bicycle shop.
He decided to stay for a little while. Both bicycles and motorcycles were repaired at the shop, and Reuben was ready to learn.
While he worked at the shop, he began building himself a motorcycle from old Harley parts. When he finished building it, he wanted to try it out. He left his canoe with friends and went off on his motorcycle.
In 1933, he rode his motorcycle north until he reached Chicago. By that time, he had the traveling bug again and decided he wanted to keep riding. It was about time for harvest. He needed money, so he followed the harvest up through Minnesota and North Dakota. When he was done, he headed south until he reached Tucson, Arizona.
From there, he went west and ended up back in Los Angeles and then San Francisco, California.
His motorcycle had taken thousands of miles, and it was almost worn out. He sold it for $2. Then he had a different kind of problem. How would he get back to his canoe and other things in New Orleans?
He started hitchhiking across California, but he got tired of that really quick.
In the 1930s, many men had started traveling by running in empty boxcars. Reuben decided to do the same, and in a few days, he was back in New Orleans.
He worked until he had enough money to afford other motorcycles and then moved back to Chicago.
In Chicago, Reuben started a machine shop. He had learned a lot about fixing things and used his knowledge to keep his machine shop running.
In 1939, when Reuben was 36 years old, he
met Margaret. They were married in 1942. After a few years, Reuben and Margaret decided they were ready to leave the big city. They began traveling through the southern states looking for the best place to settle down.
They finally decided on Arkansas and bought a chicken farm outside of Arkadelphia.
They spent 35 years running the farm. They never had their own children, but were very close to their nieces and nephews.
Margaret died in 1987 and Reuben was alone again. His nephews began talking to him about moving back to Kansas where he would be close to family. He was almost 9 years old by that time.
They finally convinced him to sell the farm, and when he was 95 years old, he moved back to Kansas to live with his nephew Don, who lived just a few miles from the house Reuben was born in.
Yay! Reuben turned 100 years old November 13, 2003. Family and friends gathered to help him celebrate his birthday. 1 month later, Reuben died. Uncle Reuben is gone now, but his story lives on.